Hey everyone, Matthew Bagger here. For those who don't know, I'm a professional counsellor, and today I want to talk to you about the best way to cope with anxiety. This is a really important topic because there's so many people out there who are suffering from anxiety, and it's when you're in that really big pit, that rabbit hole of anxiety where you're just so stressed out and you can't think clearly, that you really need to find a way out. And that's what I'm going to tell you today. So the first thing to acknowledge is that the pain of anxiety is caused by an over-attachment to your thoughts. So to get this point across, let me give an example. So let's say you have the thought that I'm a loser. If you have that thought and you don't really identify with it and you don't believe it's a fundamental truth, then it's not going to be that painful. It'll be like one of the thousands of thoughts which is passing through your head every single day. Now let's contrast this to someone who has the identification with this thought that I'm a loser. They would believe that that is the only reality of this situation. You will see that everywhere, and you'll just be thinking all the time that I'm a loser because, again, this is your reality, not just a possibility of your reality where you just have all these different thoughts and you don't actually identify fully with one of them. You just sort of acknowledge their thoughts and you can let them go. So to get rid of the pain of anxiety is to separate yourself from your thoughts, or the founding principle of coping with anxiety, which I call get out of your head. This is the most important principle to learning how to cope with anxiety, because if you're out of your head, you're not identifying with your thoughts and everything's fine. So you can either become the observer of your thoughts in the sense that you're not really identifying fully with them and you're outside of them and that you have control and not overpowering you, or you can just be out of your head in regards to you not even having thoughts at a certain moment and just being in this state where you're just sort of being and not overthinking and overanalyzing everything. Now, before I talk to you about the 3 best ways to get out of your head, I first want to tell you about the process of how you get in a really anxious state in terms of getting in your head. So let's look at this. So let's say your boss snaps at you at one day and you think, okay, they've just snapped at me, maybe they're having a bad day, because they don't normally do that. Now let's contrast this to maybe getting a little bit more in your head and think, oh, maybe I did something which is wrong. You get a little bit more in your head and think, okay, like, why did he snap at me? So you think about all these different examples. Maybe you came across negatively to him. Maybe you said something which was out of line. Maybe you didn't dress well, and you start thinking, getting more and more in your head. Then you may come up with the idea that you're a loser, something like that. You get more and more in your head, and you see that everywhere where you think, oh, someone did this, I'm a loser. Oh, someone didn't invite me to this, oh, it's because I'm a loser. Whatever it is, you start seeing this everywhere as you get more and more and more in your head. So I'm saying this just to get across the point of how good it is to go out of your head in a way. Like, how good would it be if you just stopped this whole process of getting more and more and more in your head with these silly thoughts which really are not a true reflection of reality. You're able to dig your way out of that hole. And again, this is to get out of your head. This is the best way to do it. So here are the 3 best ways. So the first best way to get out of your head is to get in the flow state. So this is a state you're in when you're just fully engaged in the here and now. So this may be something like dancing, where you're just dancing along to a song and you're just so energized and having such a great time. You're not having any thought cross through your head, you're just fully engaged and you're just being in the moment. Other things may be like creative flow states, like let's say you're painting or you do sculpting. Anything like that is really, really good as well, just because you're fully immersed in the task at hand. Other things may include sports, anything at all which gets you out of your head and in this sort of state of being. So for example, I know someone who likes financial modeling and they're in the best state, out of their head, not thinking about anything. They're just putting in numbers on a computer and they're just having a really good time doing that. So it can literally be anything. So think hard about what gets you in that state of just energized and fully immersed in the here and now. So the second best way is to become the observer. So this is where you recognize that you have all these different thoughts which are passing through your head, and you just don't necessarily attach to them. You don't attach to them as a fundamental reality, one of them. Instead, you become the observer and you just sort of acknowledge, hey, I have all these different thoughts coming through my head and they are what they are. That's just how thoughts are. We have thousands and thousands of them a day, and you just sort of acknowledge that you don't want to become fully immersed and completely identify with one of these thoughts. For example, the one that I'm a loser. You just think, oh, my mind's telling me that I'm a loser. It is what it is. So one of the most popular ways to become the observer is to meditate. So this is where you sit down in a chair, breathe deeply in through your nose, out through your mouth, and just sort of observe what your mind is doing without fully identifying with it. So you just sort of sit there, eyes closed, in through your nose, out through your mouth, and just sort of look at what's happening in your mind and just sort of try and relax and just let it sort of unscramble itself and just be. And the third best way to get out of your head is to do exercise or a sport. So this is where you get fully in your body, and it's a great way as well to release cortisol, which is a stress hormone which builds up in you if you have more and more stress, and it can cause things like increased risk of heart disease, increased likelihood of depression, and so on. So again, physical exercise is where another way of sort of being in a flow state. So if you're playing tennis or even boxing, for example, you're not going to be thinking about what's going on and your anxieties. You're going to be in the moment and thinking, all right, where's the ball going to land on the court? Where do I have to be next? Or in boxing, make sure that your head's not going to get punched off. So it's very hard to be in your head when you're doing physical exercise and you're fully absorbed in running or anything which involves moving around, moving your body, and you're focused on making sure where you are on the court and all these other different things which are involved in sports. So I hope you found this video helpful. One little reminder is that a nice little quote that Tony Robbins uses, who's a famous life coach. He says, if you're in your head, you're dead. So again, that's just a reminder of if you're in your head, you're going to spiral down this sort of rabbit hole of negative thinking, and you get more and more sucked in there, and you'll identify more and more with your thoughts. So next time you start feeling yourself getting more anxious, just think, okay, I need to get out of my head, either into my body, in the flow state, become the observer, whatever it is, just to get a little bit of relief from that rabbit hole, and that will really prevent you going down it. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.